Trey, as always, it is great to see you again for our third interview now. Previous one was June 20th, it was uploaded. So probably around mid June was when we done it over 3 months ago now. How has everything been for you?
It's been great. It's been great. It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but the grind never stops, and we just got to keep on keeping on. And
Mhm.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay. Just to give some context for the listener, during our previous interview, this was your situation. This was what I wrote on Twitter. Since joining the real world, Trey has been able to scale his construction company to 40,000 per month. The freelancing campus helped him pay off his family's debts and become a stronger leader for his team. Interesting. Okay. Does that has any of those changed? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, so essentially, some of the things that have happened, I lost a lot of my team. A lot of my team I was turning on to the real world. I was, showing them Andrew Tate's content and everything, and they kind of went off on their own, started doing their own thing. With that said, I kind of lost a big chunk of my team, which took a huge revenue percentage out. But since have started to implement new systems, and we're back on track to come back stronger than ever.
hmm A bit more on losing your team. Do you actually just mean they went into the real world and started doing the lessons from there, and then that's why they moved off, or was it something else?
I actually don't know if they ever made it into the real world, unfortunately. I do know
Oh,
that they started to watch Andrew Tate's content. I know that they had seen a few of the podcasts that we had done, and they decided that they wanted to try to take some of their skills that they had on the side and make a go at their own path. And
right.
I commend anybody that's willing to do that. And if the path that I am paving for everyone isn't the path they want to walk, I'm always there for them. No bad blood between us whatsoever. But yeah, basically losing a large portion of the team kind of
Wow.
slowed production down. But you know what? That's okay. As entrepreneurs, we just figure out a new solution, and we come up with a new system, a new plan, and we just implement and take action. That's all we got to do.
That's very interesting. What that reminds me of is, I guess that's why in corporate settings, they don't really want you to be a free thinker in a way, because if you do start thinking for yourself, then you'll just leave the company. So in your case, you were inspiring people to do that, and in a way at your own detriment, but you care about other people, right? So you'll find that that happened in a way, like you wanted that for them. I'm presuming, or did I misunderstand something?
Oh no, no, 100%. Like if anybody out there has the skills and has the drive and motivation is false pretense, but if they have the drive to actually chase after their dreams and utilize their skills to make money for themselves and for their families, I want to support them in any way I can. A few of them actually will reach out to me from time to time with a few questions, and I answer everything to the best of my abilities, because not all of the skills transfer over. We were working in construction together. None of them are doing anything related to construction.
Mhm.
So it's not like they necessarily went into competition with me. But at the same time, um, it's not ideal for myself. But, the path isn't always going to be smooth. Sometimes it gets a little bumpy, and
Mhm.
we just kind of take what we can, and learn what we can from the situation, and then reevaluate. If I'm being truthful, I think that in that time of adjustment, profits went down by about $17,000.
Mhm.
Um, and then we implemented some new systems. We actually came up with a very good game plan. We cut a lot of overhead, and then after that, we nailed down on the new systems that I implemented. And next month, we are on track to go for 35,000.
Okay, very nice. In terms of systems, explain a bit more. What does that mean? What kind of systems are you implementing?
So we have essentially I was handling a lot of the client relations, and at this point, what we are doing is we are implementing almost like specific steps so that not only can we automate more of the processes so that I can be in the field a little bit more, helping people complete the jobs, but it is also streamlining our estimates, our quotes. We're basically getting things out at record time. And then I have somebody that is reaching out to each of the clients every day to gather information and different things like that so that we don't have to um, essentially be working for 11, 12, 13 hours a day trying to piece all the puzzle together. It's running a bit smoother. So step A, B, C, D, and then one, two, three, four, and it's great. And it makes things flow. It makes us look more professional, but that also helps us not need I don't want to say it this way, but it makes it to where we don't need as many hands to get what we needed done like we did before.
Mhm,
And then we were in a tight spot when other people decided they wanted to pave their own path.
mhm.
I think in that time, we did have one person that just left. But other than that, people wanted to pave their own path. And, having these systems in place helps us so that we don't lose anything anymore.
Are you still implementing any kind of lessons from the real world, or have you moved on in a way at this point?
Everything that you're learning within the real world it's not something that you can just implement in your business and forget about. Have I like I wish that I'd be more active in the platform than what I am right now, and the reason for that isn't because I've moved on from it, because everything that I've learned is a part of my daily life. From working out to the discipline to the mindset, everything is now instilled into me. Um, the main thing that is I haven't been as active on the platform is because um, seeing how things have kind of shook out over the last 3 months, I definitely recognize that in some areas I was being stretched a little bit thin, and that's what made us implement the systems. Now that there's so much time where I'm having to swing a hammer, what I've actually done is I've started to create new avenues as well, where I have partnered with some of the real world students. So we've actually partnered together and built new companies based on it, both of which are going to be ran in a complete digital interface. So we're not going to have any hammer swinging or anything like that, which is good because it takes a lot less time, a lot less effort. But with that does come a small amount of time that is needed, and it's usually in the evenings. So not only have I continued to use the teachings to essentially make my life better, make my business better, but I've also done it to expand into new avenues of revenue coming in that are in completely different industries because I had the skills essentially.
Mhm. Okay, that's quite some big news. You're saying you're working with the real world students. How did you end up getting into that in the first place? How did that come about?
So so the first person that ever reached out to me actually saw one of our interviews, okay? And when he found out that I was from Indiana, he reached out to me in the real world and said, "Holy crap, I never thought that I was gonna see another Hoosier here." And I said, "You're from Indiana?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "We gotta get together. When are you free?" And literally, I didn't care what he did. I didn't anything. So we start chatting over some coffee, and he starts telling me about his web development skills and stuff like that. I do a lot of coding and programming, and what I ended up doing at that time was a lot of AI related things. What I did was I built and created my own AI, and I wanted to utilize it in a SaaS service. So we partnered together, and we are currently working on something that's going to completely change the game for entrepreneurs that are attempting to use AI to grow and scale their business.
Wow. So you're saying from that first interview, he just saw it. So how long ago was this? Or was it from second interview?
It was from the first interview. It
First
was from
interview.
the February interview. I would
Oh.
have to say, um, maybe 3 weeks after our very
Mhm.
first interview is when we got together for our very first meeting. We had coffee. It's crazy. He's maybe 30 minutes away from me, if that, if that.
Wow.
So it was like fate.
Mhm.
Um, and then there were quite a few. So I had two other students that reached out to me because I've always been okay with helping the community. One of the students, he felt kind of lost. He felt like he didn't really know where he belonged. So we just kind of talked, and I kind of got to know him a little bit better. I got to know his skills, what he's interested in, what he has knowledge of, and different things like that. And I got him started on a really good path that he enjoyed. He made some money with it, from what I understand, and it just kind of fit like a glove when I decided to go for my next venture in the online space, which was just creating a simple client management agency for people that are attempting to sell products or services. Let us drive your traffic. And so we partnered with him because I've had to do a lot of those things with my company. So I partnered with him. He's great at calling people, making sales. I had another individual reach out to me, and he was doing fairly well in the affiliate. Got a little discouraged when all of his accounts got banned on the IG. You know, the
Mhm.
logarithm wasn't too kind to anything that was related to Tate,
Mhm.
unfortunately, for a little bit. But you know what? Screw those guys. Anyway, those platforms aren't as important. I'm just
Yep.
kidding, just kidding. But no, so essentially, he reached out to me and asked, what his next step should be, and I got him back on track. And he asked basically if I had anything going on. I was like, I actually might. Let's see what we got here. And the three of us came together, and it again, it was so natural. It was like a glove, and all of us have a very similar work ethic, even though with one of them, he's on the other side of the country from me. And then with the third, he's over in Romania. So I'm working with both of them,
Mhm.
and it's been absolutely amazing. But at the same time, we all met in the community. So even if you're not doing like, I've done a bunch of the lessons. I did a bunch of the lessons before the reboot. I've gone through and redone a bunch of the lessons. The new lessons, I love it. But that community is really where it's at. I mean, where else are you going to find business partners that are ready to go, that have that drive and have a common goal with you? So it's crazy. It's like you can take me out of the real world for a few months because I'm swamped with work, but the real world can't be taken out. It's always going to be there.
Mhm. That is amazing to hear. And in a way, it does make sense because the real world curates like-minded individuals together. Maybe that's the wrong way of phrasing it, but it brings together like-minded individuals with good work ethic. Obviously, not everyone from the 300,000 students will be that way, but people you'll see from how much work they've done, whether it was growing accounts or just whether you will see that progress and that they have work ethic and they all come together in one place. So, yeah, it completely makes sense that you can meet some lifelong brothers from there, which people have had. I just was speaking a
Yeah.
few days ago recently with Saad, Federico. They moved into a mansion in Thailand. They had never met previously before. Four of them. Actually, it was five at the time. They had never met before, and they all pulled their money together to get a mansion in Thailand and all moved in there. So that was a crazy story. But again, all meeting for the real world. So it's not even that uncommon situations as such as yours. But it's beautiful to hear that things happen that way.
Yeah, I
Now,
agree.
mhm. So you're saying you have three businesses going on at the moment, or even more?
Yeah, yeah, just the three.
Just three,
That's
just
all
three,
I can handle.
just three. Okay. Any extra income then from the other two?
So the third venture has essentially just started to gain traction. With that, we have begun making sales. So nothing too great, nothing to write home about. We're probably gonna see, which this is like within the last month, but we'll probably see 2,100 or so this month. But again, that's the first month. We're, in my opinion, just starting to gain
Mhm.
traction. And as we build up that traction and continue to generate more and more sales, that's where it's going to be at. Because right now, what our main goal is, instead of, which money in is always the main goal, but we have some subclass goals where we are essentially every day we want to double our numbers from the day previous. So if we only got this many messages out, the next day we got to double it. If we only got this many sales in or this much traffic in, tomorrow we're going to double it. And if we do double it, which we have been almost every single day for the last week, it doesn't matter. You got to double it the next day too. I don't care how big the numbers are. They're
Mhm.
only going to get bigger, so you guys better get ready. It's a rodeo.
Mhm.
so and then with the AI, actually, um that's a bit different. We are trying to have that ready for beta and launch within the next month to month and a half. So a lot of building went into doing that, and due to that, there were lots of bugs, lots of things popped up. Programming and coding, uh, sometimes they can be very unforgiving.
Yeah, yeah.
so so
Especially
as
with
we
AI.
actually
Sorry to interrupt you.
oh,
I remember when I
oh
was
no,
training an AI model, you don't truly know what's going on behind the scenes. So anything that messes up, it's hard to track back to what it was that actually made it mess up. So yeah, so
exactly.
coding without AI is already hard enough, and now you implement AI where there's like a black box or whatever you call it, of you don't actually know. It depends what kind of AI model you're training, but in a lot of them, you don't actually know what's going on within. It just spits out the right answer, like you hope it spits out the right answer, which it usually does. But yeah, there's anyway. There you go. Continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's almost like you have lines of code, and no matter how good you are at programming or coding in general, it's like you've got everything in front of you. You understand it, you see it, but then there's this just big box of just mystery,
Hmm.
and it's like, well, I mean, that looks like it's going to do what it's supposed to do, so we'll try that. And then you get it all going, and you get it all active, and then it doesn't do what it's supposed to, and you're like, okay. Okay, I see you. Let's try something different then.
Hmm.
so, it's going well though. Fortunate for me and my partner as well. I don't know if he'd want me naming him on here, but we have gotten everything as far as the bot completely operational, and it took a little bit. It took a lot of finessing, but now all we have to worry about is the actual platform, the user experience. We have a very nice platform designed out, but we just have to make sure that it is doing everything that we need it to do. And then it's going to have a complete login member system, because we don't want people to lose what they've done. There's a lot to implement. A lot to
Hmm.
implement.
Okay. How has that changed you as a person, having this much going on? Because it's three different businesses, building them out, occupied a lot of the time, working most of your day. Have you noticed change within yourself from that?
Yeah. Some days I find myself feeling I'd have to say I don't wanna say unproductive, because it's not unproductive, because doing this much, you're always doing something, but sometimes you feel like, you're not doing enough, right? And basically what I've had to do is, create some mental affirmations, and if I am getting essentially my checklist knocked out for the day, I know that I did what I needed to do, and that money coming in for the construction business is going to be inevitable, but not to get discouraged that money hasn't begin coming out in the same rate from the other ventures, because it's hard to not compare one of your companies to all the rest.
Yeah.
And so just kind of keeping myself mentally strong. You're not doing anything wrong, you're getting everything completed, and when this thing goes into full swing, it is going to be a monster of a whole nother face, and it's going to be magical. It's going to be that magical moment where almost all of the work comes together and it just kind of takes off, and you don't have to look at it too much.
Hmm.
It's going to be a blessing. I'm going to be like, yeah, thank goodness I don't have to look at you anymore.
Okay, interesting. Um, the reason why I asked, I'll say from personal experience. Let me know what you think about this as well.
Mm,
Recently, I decided to go into war mode and set the challenge for myself to do 3 interviews every single day for this month. I already started a week ago, but yeah, throughout this month, I want to do 3 interviews a day. Just again, just for the challenge of it, because it takes. This is something that will take up a lot of my day, but it allowed me now to have a. My day's a lot more structured. So as soon as I wake up, I go gym. Then after gym, I have interviews scheduled for the rest of the day, and because it's minimum 3 that I'm doing, and if I don't have interview scheduled, I have other work to do. So it's basically from when I wake up, gym, then working until I go to sleep, and I'm gonna do that for the next month. And I've already in just a week noticed some interesting changes. A lot more. I know the direction I'm heading in, and it allows for a lot more discipline within me. It feels like it's a lot harder for me to sway off course now because every action I take throughout the day, it's centered around accomplishing the goals I have in mind that I guess have envisioned. And what you were saying about affirmations, that also reminded me every morning and evening before I go to bed, I put on my headphones and go into YouTube. I type in 70 Stoic affirmations, and there's like
mhm.
a thing there where it just goes through. I'm using that as a placeholder until I have my own affirmations, but it seems to be also very beneficial just to make sure I go to sleep listening to it. And then as soon as I wake up, I'm still in that state of slight sleepiness. I think I see it. This is a lot of rambling. I see life in. Um, we operate on different wavelengths in different times during the day. Just as you're falling asleep, you're in a different wavelength to when you're most conscious during the day. And that wavelength, as you're falling asleep, makes you any information you receive then more susceptible to the subconscious. It's easier to get it into the subconscious. That's why I wanted to do it that way. And just as you wake up, I think you're kind of in that state as well. So I make sure I'm listening to them then. And yeah, energy levels definitely increased. Uh, Intuition is a weird one, but I follow my intuition a lot more now for the positive, and I'm expressing myself more. There's a lot of changes, and I said just discipline. The reason why I even brought this up is because you're older than me, you have more experience. Does any of this make you think, like, ring any bells or anything? Just what would you follow up with for that? Wow.
100%. You're right. Creating that challenge, that goal for yourself, kind of forces you to um, invoke a solid structure, because if you don't, you're going to be doing things at random. I know that the first few days for me, because I had a lot going on within the construction business. I had to do some moving heavy equipment, different things like that, to a new location completely. Because there wasn't the room for that equipment in said workshop. It had to go to the other location. With that, I mean, things were sporadic, and that was for roughly like the first, well, I would say the first maybe 3 to 5 days that things were sporadic, right? And it was hard to essentially get things done because there was no structure, right? I was basically, okay, I'll work on this until I get it done. Then I will work on this till I get it done, work on this till I get it done. And I found myself for that first 5 days working until, 1, 2 in the morning. And nobody really wants to be working until 1 or 2 in the morning, especially if they've been swinging a hammer all day, moving heavy equipment, and then they're calling trying to make sales, and different things like that. And then you're going in and looking at a bunch of numbers and letters and ones and zeros, and it can really get your mind off track. So I agree with you, because after that, I was like, this isn't working for me. This is like my sixth day that I'm up until 2 a.m. And all through that, I've still got the children, I've still got, the family. We've got to spend time together. So yeah, it's very important to invoke structure, so that you actually know, okay, between this time and this time, this is the to-do list that I need to be working on. This is the company that I'll be working on. So the way that I usually do that is, because the programming isn't too um, encumbering, essentially. It's just a lot of mental work. What I try to do is I try to save that for the evening, because it's easy for me to understand. I've been doing it for quite some time, that I can just kind of go in there and analyze, look through some lines, see what's been changed. We have a really good system with that. So anything that is changed, anything that is altered in any way, shape, or form, receives a comment by it, so that we can kind of see that on one page. It's like, okay, this is what he changed, this is what he changed, this is what's been changed, and this is what's been added. I can go right back in and look at that and say, okay, well, this looks good, but this needs tweaking just a little bit. And then I usually do that in the evening for about. I try to aim for 3 hours, but usually I'm finished up within two. As far as making sales, because that is usually going through the middle of the day or early in the day, because that's when I'm able to get the most response, or at least people to answer their phones. I go ahead and I try to knock that out as early as possible. So what I'll usually do is I will usually spend roughly 2 to 3 hours on that in the morning, which is easy because I wake up early. So I'll get a lot of emails sent out long before anybody else wakes up. And then what I do from there is I make phone calls, I do DM outreaches, different things like that. And for my clients that I do have, I will go ahead and implement posts, which I usually use, some form of a software that allows me to do everything way in advance. So within the first week of the month, I try to have most of everything for the month knocked out for my client. So whether that be posting, whether that be an ad, whether that be just networking in general, I try to have that scheduled way ahead of time. But you're never done working, because you've got people that are coming in from that. You've got people that you're trying to convert, essentially trying to be that one and done. I'm going to handle this so that my client doesn't have to. And in turn, I get a little bit more of the profit. The split's a little better in my favor for it. But I will do that early, and again, 2 to 3 hours, and then the day is reserved for construction, whereas that will be done usually around 2 to 3, sometimes 4. And at that point, I have time for the kids, and then once the kids basically hit it's after dinner time, it's time to go to the bath. I have structured it to where I can do a little bit more client work, DM outreach and post outreach, different stuff like that. And then I transition into the coding for the evening. So without the structure, it wouldn't work, because I could only have gone for maybe 2 more weeks on the going until 1 to 2 in the morning, no sleep, no rest. So it's a lot better to have that structure in place. I'd have to agree with you. I don't mean to ramble on it so much, but yeah, it's very important to have that structure. Otherwise, you can get lost. You can get lost in your mind. You can get lost in the tasks, and you can get very discouraged about it, especially if you feel lost for some time and you're running out of energy and everything. Those all combined are a recipe for disaster, especially in being an entrepreneur. So you really want to try to eliminate those things as much as possible, which is why I think systems are extremely important, especially now.
Hmm. Until you said that, I had something to follow up with, but because you said it, this actually reminds me of a previous thing I wanted to ask about systems. So these systems you're implementing now into your business, would you say they're now going to be more scalable? They're going to make your business more scalable than it was previously?
Oh yes, 100%. I mean, every system that you implement in your business, as long as it works and proves to be efficient, it's going to help you scale because when you bring more people in to tackle said task, they're going to know exactly what to do, no confusion. And that's the important thing about it is not having just for instance, in construction we have certain things we do on a measure so that we can write the most accurate quotes that we can. And instead of trying to just teach that to someone, we created an entire worksheet with drawings and everything that I had to create myself. But you know, with that, we were able to basically teach someone. They have the paper, and now when they go on site to complete those measures and write out quotes, they have that piece of paper and it's now fillable. So you literally on the piece of paper write the information from the measure itself. And then they're able to go back to the office. They're able to go back to their desk. They're able to take all those numbers, get material lists, get cost analysis, profit analysis, all based on that one worksheet without having to try to remember anything they were taught, without trying to call me three, four, five, six times sometimes. Hey, so I got this part, but what was that other part that I was supposed to do? Which was happening so often that it got to a point where if I was on site swinging a hammer, I started ignoring my phone because I knew it was somebody trying to ask me a question that they already knew the answer to. So it would start ringing. I swipe and it sends them a text message saying, "Hey, I'm busy. Can you text me?" And they would text me the same thing almost every time. I was
Mhm.
like, all right, so obviously we've identified an issue. Let's generate a system. So I feel like every system that is implemented, as long as it's efficient and gets the work done, it's going to help anyone scale.
Mhm. Okay. And now, tangent to that, what you speak about and how occupied you are, the businesses you're building, it all just seems like war. So, just to follow up with it, why are we built for war as men?
I don't want to give the shortest answer, um, but we're men. We were made to go to war. That's what we do. We go out there and we fight. And unfortunately, in our society, men aren't given a very fair shake out there. And so every day when we wake up and we breathe, we are breathing in the air of the competition all around us. And because we are always at competition with, you know, maybe it's the construction company down the road. Maybe we're in competition with ourselves because we just want a better life or we want to do better. But as men, we are always competing to be better. And if we're not, then you're probably a couch potato that's been playing video games. You probably have pink hair, some weird piercings, you know, don't do a whole lot. And that's a bad thing. You don't want to fall into that complacency. You don't want to fall into that pit of laziness because it's a trap, and it's a hard trap to get away from. You know, I've fallen into society's game plan before. That's what made me jump onto running my own construction company, because society's game plan didn't shake out for me. Um, and that's what made me really realize that we are always competing to be better. And if you're competing against millions of other men out there, it's war. It's war, plain and simple, um, because you have to remain relevant. And if you don't remain relevant in this world, chances are you're going to be forgotten. And I won't be forgotten easily.
Very good answer. And it reminded me of something that's been on my mind since I've heard this. Someone who was sparring Andrew Tate, they said as the rounds go on, it just seems like he gets more and more energy. And at what point, I don't know if they asked him or he just randomly said it, but there's a quote I remember. Do you think that's air I'm breathing? And I was wondering what that means. And maybe it's what you just said about you're breathing in the air of the competition around you. And maybe there's more to it like that. So I really like that. Okay. What changes have you noticed in yourself then over these 3 months? Because for someone who is hyper productive, I don't know if you'd consider yourself hyper productive. Looking at you, I'd say yes, just from outside perspective. Clearly, there's a lot of things going on every single day, and over a 3 month time span, those compound. So there must be changes that you've noticed within yourself in that period, right?
Oh yes, definitely. Um, so I know that I've mentioned this before, but now more than ever, stress tolerance, I mean, is off the charts. I'm at level 101. I'm maxed out here on stress tolerance. So, there's not a whole lot that really frazzles me or frustrates me anymore. Occasionally, you've got the occasional thing that kind of comes out of left field, and you're like, whoa, what happened there? But then it comes into the second thing, and that's my problem solving skills. Um, those have gone off the charts. um, obviously, when we started losing crew and stuff like that, we started, taking a hit on the amount of income that was coming in. I had to I had to find a solution immediately. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the first thing that came to mind was obviously implementing some systems so that we're basically getting more done in a shorter amount of time with less hands, essentially. But the amount of productivity doesn't dip too much. From there, it was all in letting those systems run their course and then optimizing them. And that it just popped into my mind. Like, okay, and this was on a day that we lost three people. So I lost three people in the same day. And two of them were the ones going off on their own. And this was the day that the one person just quit. And I think he quit due to the two people deciding to go off on their own. He felt like, oh, we're going to be short staffed. They're probably getting ready to rake us across the coals, et cetera, et cetera. But in reality, in my mind, I was actually thinking, how do I make this work easier for you to be able to accomplish? So the people that stayed, they got to see that benefit, but at the same time, I had to come up with something immediately. So once that happened, that was the first thing that popped into my head. And it actually did alleviate tons of the what would have been stress almost instantaneously, because the people that were there to see that, hey, this system is going to be implemented, it's going to make things way easier, you're not going to have to write things down on your phone or anything like that, they were actually like, oh wow, okay, this is actually going to be good, which immediately took stress off of me. So it was the problem solving, the stress tolerance is definitely one of those, but I have become more disciplined and in choosing who gets my time, because something that has definitely happened over the last 3 months is that I've had a lot of time wasters kind of rear their ugly heads and expected more of the cake because they found out just how big the cake was that I baked. And to me, that wasn't that wasn't an option. You know, it's like that old adage: if you win the lottery, don't tell your family because everybody will be coming out of the woodworks.
Mm.
And that's kind of what happened. But it basically made me very disciplined about who I spend my time with also, but who I allow to have my time. So my attention and my advice essentially. But those are probably the three biggest changes that I've gone through over the last 3 months. Um, and it's honestly, it's made me a much better, I would have to say it's made me a much better person because my kids are seeing a lot of change. A lot less stress and things are running smooth, so they're all happy. People around me are not causing stress because again, I'm being picky about who gets my time. So they're not causing stress. They're not hanging around with their hands out, so to say. And yeah, I mean, it's just all around a much better situation.
That's very interesting to listen to, especially the ending, because again, it just shows how much we're willing to. I don't know if you call it sacrifice, but that's the best word that comes to mind. Sacrifice ourselves for the people we love, and how much that drives us. That's interesting just to see.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There was an old book that I read a long time ago, and it always sticks with me. Even just the title. Now, of course, I still remember most of the book, but start with why. And when you're in business for yourself, you always have to keep your reasoning for being in business close, especially in your heart, in your mind, and in your life. And for me, that's my kids. I want to provide a good life for my kids that they can be happy and also be proud of, their father because I don't want to. I don't want to be that father that comes home from a 9 to 5 where I'm now working paycheck to paycheck. Bills are barely paid. There may be a little bit of food in the cabinets, and I sit down and I start playing video games. Like that. That is the worst type of role model or even parental figure to have in a sense. And I do believe that everybody should have their passions, but if you come home every day and you say, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm going to spend 5 hours playing this video game," instead of spending it with the kids or going to see your parents or even helping out around the house or making dinner with your partner, like your life is going to suffer and you're probably not going to be very happy because that video game is only going to make you so happy,
Mhm.
and for a very short amount of time. From I remember just seeing a study and the endorphins that winning a video game actually releases into your body. The effects, they don't last very long, but I sit back and I look at my life and I say, yeah, sometimes it gets chaotic because I'm so busy, but it's actually a lot better. My endorphins get released because I'm taking care of my family. I'm happy. I don't have tons of worries about, oh, is money coming in from over here? Do we have money here? Do we have food? Are we going to make it to the next paycheck? Stuff like that
Mm.
doesn't worry me because I don't have those stressors in my life, whereas that individual would. So I always keep my Y close. I always have pictures of my kids. So if I ever struggle, I immediately unlock my phone. There they are, right there, front and center. And you know what? That keeps me going. It really does. And it seems so silly because as
It
a
doesn't. It really
father.
doesn't. I think that's the most fulfillment you can have in your life, and the thing that'll again, you said don't use motivate, but this is the best word I can find. That's what will motivate you the most as well, and make you disciplined, and you just do everything you can for them. I'm sure that is just how we're wired.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's a feeling unlike anything you could ever imagine, but at the same time, um, it keeps you going on your darkest days.
All right. Okay. There's one more thing I want to ask you. I just need to give some context for it.
Yeah.
I'll give two people as an example. One, okay, before the example, here's what I'm trying to ask. There's superpowers within all of us that are unique to us. And what I mean by that, as an example, there's one person who's very good at reading people. Just off of a 10-second interaction, they can judge what that person is about. And he's just very accurate at it because of his years in two very ruthless industries, going from the bottom to the top in both. So he ended up developing that. And now he's probably one of the best, maybe in the world at it. I'd be confident enough to say. And there's a second person I was speaking to, and he was saying how he didn't realize, but he's very good at bringing people together, and from that setting, bringing out the best in them. And he didn't realize that until someone he very much respected actually pointed it out to him and phrased it in a way where it was like, "Oh, this is quite unique to me, being able to do this in such a way." So from there, just knowing these two people, I realized I'm pretty sure each of us has some kind of superpower which is unique to us, which if we hone, we can become one of the best in the world at and use that to propel whether it's us in business or in a family setting. There's just again just something there and people don't realize the uniqueness they have. So in your case, what do you think is your superpower?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, if I had any superpower, I would have to say that it is my ability to be empathic with others. Um, I'm almost able to match people on a wavelength when I'm just interacting with them, and it almost makes me feel like not only am I able to get to know a person easier, they seem to open up to me easier, but it allows me to really see who they are. It's almost like I get a glimpse into their soul about what they really do stand for. And if they actually have the drive to do what it is that they say they want to do. But at the same time, it also allows me to analyze the person. So when I'm actually, and this is what usually makes me a good leader outside of the fact that I'm willing to get into the trenches as well, but it's the fact that I can connect with people on that level. And because I connected with them on that level, I am able to analyze where they are a good fit. So where they would be the most efficient at what they're trying to do, or how they could be the most efficient at what they want to do. So, with a certain individual, if they have a goal they want to reach, just based on maybe 2, 3 conversations, I at that point can give them a plan of attack that usually works out for them. And if it doesn't, I know why it didn't work out, and then we can actually reanalyze that step and get them going again. And it is a beautiful thing to be able to connect with individuals on that level, especially like when I go out to the gym. And some of my gym bros hate this because I have a not a small group. But a group of usually around 5 guys that like to get together to work out because we're just all there at the same time. And they will look at me crazy sometimes because I will just connect with an individual. I won't even have a conversation with them. I will go over and I'll be like, "Hey man, can I borrow that plate?" Just talking, "Can I get that 45 plate off of you?" And from there, within the next few weeks, we talk and then they're in our group. They're in there working out with us. And we're working on a plan for their success in the gym. And then as we get to go deeper, into talking and to getting to know that person out of nowhere. We're talking advice, we're talking business, and some of those guys have actually come back to me and said, I actually tried this. One of them's a car salesman. I actually, tried to implement this, and I did this and this and this, just like you said, and my sales are going up, and I think that it's time that I, implement this every month. And I'm like, you need to implement this every day. So it's just that sort of a superpower, I guess, that I would have to say sets me aside or makes me unique. And that's that just being empathic for others.
I really like that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm glad I asked that question because that was some new insights for me as well. Okay. Now, since you're on this trajectory, where do you see your life heading in the short term, medium term, and long term?
The short term, I see it heading into more chaos. No,
Good.
it's completely fine. So, obviously we still got some work to do. We still got some rubber to burn on the roads. And we're gonna be doing that regardless. So in the short term, there's gonna be a lot of work to be done. By the end of this year, I see the workload lightening quite a bit. And then within the next 6 months, I foresee scale basically both of my digital ventures being scaled. And hopefully, if God willing, if everything works out that way, my workload will basically drop to the point where I am back on track with just focusing mainly on the construction. And then from there, I will just handle any major fires that pop up on the digital side.
Mhm.
But long term, my goals have actually changed a little bit. I wanted to scale, and I wanted to essentially make it to where I could get out. I wanted to travel, take the kids places that they want to go, and places that I've always wanted to see. My new goal now is actually to scale everything. I want to scale construction and the digital businesses. Basically, the digital businesses are probably going to become my main source of income for just a little slight amount of time while we reanalyze, because I think that it is time for us to get closer with the other brothers. It is time for us to be closer to the other brothers, um, because things within our country isn't going in the trajectory that we were hoping, and it's becoming escalating at an alarming rate at
Mhm.
that. But it's becoming very difficult to maintain a lifestyle here. For instance, housing is roughly around 2 grand a month minimum. And then you've got groceries. So with the groceries, that's roughly uh, $200-300 a week. And then on top of that, you've got two workshops, businesses to run. I make sure my parents' house is taken care of. Like they've got to pay for the parents' house. So my amount of personal overhead in my life has gotten to a point where it's getting rocked. And it's due to the ever changing economy that we have here. And I would much rather spend my time alongside my brothers, alongside the people that I enjoy, doing the same things. That's the best part about it is so many people are afraid of change. They're afraid to have something major like that happen. And for me, I welcome it. I'm totally unafraid. I would not bat an eye if I had to come up with, 10 grand to move myself, my business, my families, my equipment to another country to be able to continue doing my businesses, but be closer to my brothers and be in an economy that is stabilized enough that it needs our skills and it doesn't continue to take away
Good.
from anything that it shouldn't be. Because if I'm being honest with you, I don't like. There's a saying here, and I'll just put it at this because a lot of people will see this. I personally don't want 13 hands in my money before it gets to me.
Mm.
And no matter what we do here, that's always going to be a fact. In fact, two things that are inevitable here is death and taxes in the U.S. So we basically would love to travel. We want to find a new base of operations, which we've actually been doing a lot of research into, and we found that we've narrowed it down to a few places. Spain's one of them, and there's a lot going on. But once we finally make that final decision, it's going to be a matter of scaling the digital businesses to the point that it takes over long enough that we're well fed. We have everything taken care of while we start to build up that base of operations, that clientele again. Because starting the construction business from scratch in a whole nother country is going to be a little bit different than if we were to, go one state over,
Yep.
two states over, something like that.
Very interesting. Okay. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Don't have much time to follow up from there. I would have had a few more questions to ask, but I do need to wrap up. But it's
Yeah.
let me know if you or when you do come to this part of the world, and would be
Oh,
interesting
yes.
to meet up as well. I'd very much look forward to that. Okay, now to end off, since the real world has had quite an impact on you, I'm pretty sure this is a question asked before, but I just want to ask again. For people who are unsure about joining because they think it could be a scam for the $50, what advice would you have to them?
Um, it's honestly, it's $50, and if you think it's a scam, you can always, there's a cancel anytime, but you are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone who literally failed at doing what they're trying to teach you by going uni, and to me, that's a scam. Whereas in the real world, for $50 a month, you actually learn from people that are successful in what they're teaching you, and they're actively doing it. If you go to uni, you're paying that hundreds of thousands of dollars for a teacher that no longer does that at all. Say it's for business, they're no longer in business. Their business failed. They didn't make any money. They went back to society's game plan, played it safe, and now they're working for a government check every year. And to me, that's the biggest scam ever, because how can somebody who failed teach you if they gave up so easily? Because that's what they did. They tried, they failed, they gave up, they became a teacher. In the real world, you literally get to learn all of the modern wealth creations from somebody that is actively doing it, actively researching the industry, because everything is always changing. And without that sort of guidance, you're going to be getting outdated information. You're going to be receiving bad information or maybe even bad advice, and not even necessarily uh, at a rate that is going to be detrimental or even on purpose, but it is going to hinder you. In my opinion, the only way to go is the real world, because anything else out there, you're wasting your money. And from my own experience, I've done other online gurus and I've gone uni twice. I don't use any of my certifications or my degree for anything. And I've wasted thousands of dollars on fake gurus out there that claim to have that secret sauce. And I never made or did anything successful with any of that information up until I got into the real world. And it was funny because the last time that I actually attempted to try something, I won't say the person's name because they're still very active on YouTube, but it failed so miserably. The information they promised wasn't even there, to the point I had to get a refund. And I told myself I would never do anything like this again. But with Andrew Tate, when I started seeing his content and I was absorbing it over the course of, I believe it was roughly 2 months before I joined the real world, which again, I do not know how I was absorbing all of that content by him. And still, it took me 2 months to hear about the real world. But as soon as I heard about it, I went over to the URL, I checked it out, and I instantly said, this is for me. This is exactly what I was looking for. Somebody that's doing it, somebody who's successful in it, and they're going to teach me how to do it. So that's what I would have to say with anybody looking to actually grow themselves. You need someone who's successful in it. But at the same time, Don't take everything so literal, because a lot of people out there will see copywriting or see an example that that person became successful with, and they will try to repeat that. The best thing about the real world is it's not trying to tell you to walk their path. It is telling you how to walk your path and how to implement it into your skills and your passions. But people get lost with that because they're so used to the structure of being told what to do.
Mhm. What a beautiful answer, Trey. You flowed so well throughout as well. You could tell it was coming from the heart. So I love that. And now, if the people want to find out more about you or contact you, where can they do so?
You can always get at me on Twitter or Telegram. Um, so, I mean, the Twitter tag is or at Johnson underscore Trey, and then Telegram is at Trey Johnson. So it's fairly easy to find me. Everything is pretty much related directly to my name. But if anybody, anybody at all is struggling, maybe you don't know what the next steps to take, or maybe you just need somebody to talk to. Because things are getting chaotic, things are getting hard, and maybe you're approaching those dark days in business. I'm there for that as well. Don't I get a lot of people that feel like they waste my time because they've reached out to me for something like that, and I would much rather help somebody in their time of need when they're feeling like they're having those dark days in business. Um, than just have them fall at the wayside thinking that they're wasting my time.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, add those to the description of the video, so anyone who's interested can contact you for that. And now, yeah, Trey, what a great conversation. Didn't expect this. I thought an hour easily would finish in an hour, but here we go. We're going over time. Uh, so yeah, I'll really enjoy this though. Thank you for sharing all your insights, and I look forward to doing a follow up again in future just to see how everything's progressing for you, and because I enjoy our conversation as well.
Yeah.
All right. So all the best
It's
to you.
always good getting to see and talk to you. It really is.